Welcome to the WorkingAudioTools podcast. In this episode, we're going to be discussing ways you could damage your audio career without realizing. And this came about for me because I sent out a demo recording of a song that I've written to a producer. And that producer sent back some song notes and some mix notes. And I think through a lack of communication on my part, where on one social media format I had said the song was a demo, but when I emailed this person, I hadn't reiterated it. And they forgot it was a demo and they thought it was the final version of the song, but it most definitely wasn't. It was MIDI programmed instruments that sounded crap. And it was just a throw on, smart EQ, smart compression on the vocals. And that was it. And my fear, which has brought this conversation about, was that that person may have written me off professionally as a poor mix engineer because what he heard was a demo it was a rough sketch mix of a demo, which was a bad recording. And I wondered how much things like that could potentially damage your mixing career, because in my mind, that producer may now think I suck at mixing. Whereas I tried to salvage it and reply and say, sorry, this I forgot to reiterate, this is just a demo. It's definitely not the final recorded instruments. It's definitely not the final mix. I would like it to sound something like this. Please have a listen to the first track in my portfolio, which I've updated with a kind of pop punk mix. So, Paul, your initial thoughts when we spoke about this was that I was overthinking, which is a valid point, possibly. But what are your thoughts since then?
I think it's a very good thing to talk about, because there will be times in your career where you will do things and, subconsciously, unknowingly, you've pissed off a client, you've made a mistake, and, they're never going to contact you again, and you're never going to know until, you bump into somebody, or, on the grapevine, somebody says to you, yeah, by the way, they chose not to work with you because you did X, Y, and Z. One of the things that I did, there was a few reasons why, and I'll tell you the exact reasons why it never worked, and it could have worked. Number one, I didn't properly listen to the rough. The client, this was a long time ago, he wanted me to sound like a certain mix engineer, which straight away I should have said no, because that's not me, and this production hasn't been made by, the producer that made that record. But me being me, I thought, yeah, fuck it, let's do it. Like, I'll sound like this engineer, cool. I'll try and get the sound that you want. So I intentionally went into the mix trying to sound like a reference track that he gave to me. And I think it was Lottery. I think it was a song from Lato, and it was called Lottery. He's like, I want it to kind of sound like this, and I want it to sound like that as well. So I kind of knew what he was going for. But with an experienced head, I just would have listened to it straight away and said, look, the production isn't there. This isn't the same production. It's not the same, kicks. It's not the same snares. It's not the same percussion. It's not the same instrumentation. It's not going to work. So I'm going to struggle to get this to sound the way that you want it to sound. But me being me, naive, I went into it and I tried to make it sound how I thought he needed it to sound like the references. And the first reply I got back, the first feedback note was, did you listen to the rough at all? And straight away I was like, shit, this is bad. And then straight from there, he was then, asking me about certain things about, well, what did you mix on? It's like, I'm mixing on headphones. It's like, oh, I didn't know you were mixing on headphones, because again, this client didn't know much about mixing on headphones. He just thought, it has to be speakers. So it was kind of a bit of an awkward conversation where he basically said to me, I probably wouldn't have went with you if I knew you mixed on headphones. So that was pretty awkward. Wow. So then I had to have a conversation with him to be like, look, this is what I know about mixing on headphones, talk to him about Emra and my setup and blah. He was like, right, okay, but by the way, just to let you know, I do have speakers in the room, so I can check on speakers.
Yeah.
So he was like, okay, fine. So then we went into it and we just weren't getting it right. And he got to a point where he still paid me for it. He was just like, look, maybe it's just a thing where you're maybe just not the right mixer for this song. I kind of know what I want, and maybe it's a bit difficult. But me being me and naive, and I didn't really have that many clients at the time, and it was one of the first paid gigs that I had, really. And I kind of didn't know what to do, and I just did whatever I could do to make him happy. When really, like, with a more experienced head on my shoulders now, I just would have said, look, the production isn't there. I'm not going to make it work. And before I took his money, I would have been like, well, I would have said, I can't do what you want me to do. Because I remember I sent it to Emra, And the first thing Emma said to me was, you're fighting against the production. He went, bro, as soon as somebody came to me and says, I want it to sound like that, I would have said, but the production doesn't sound like that. I'm not going to be able to make it sound like that. If you want it to sound like this engineer, then pay for that mix engineer and try and get the producer that worked on the track as well. And then the last mistake that I made was when we were in LA, again, internet and blah. I think I had him on WhatsApp, and he contacted me on WhatsApp to say, no, what, let's just scrap that song and let's work on a new song, which I was like, okay, cool, that would have been great. But what happened was, me being in LA, everything was like all over the shop, I was jet lagged, and I had lots and lots of messages because we were in LA. And I went, oh yeah, I'll get back to that. I remember we were in Warren's studio, and then I lost it and I completely forgot about it. And then when I came back from LA, I was like, yeah, I'll need to go back to the email thread. And I couldn't find the email, and then I thought I deleted the email, and then I was like, went through the bin, and I was like, oh fuck, I've deleted it. Like, and I don't really want to go back and like get back and say, yeah, what was it you said again? Because I couldn't even remember what it was because I glanced at it quickly. And then a year and a half later, I was scrolling through my new phone, and I backed up WhatsApp, and then I was just going through loads of old conversations to delete them, and I went, oh, there was it. He WhatsApped me, he didn't email me. And there was the message, and he was like, yeah, no, let's just work on a new song. That's fine. I'll give you a second chance. And so to him, like, I didn't deliver for him, and I didn't get back to him about working on a new song. So yeah, there is like 3 things that you could do to, fuck up your not your career, but a client network, and
Yeah, so ultimately they come under the communication bracket in terms of, I mean, I've had it when a client came in and he'd sent me over 100 tracks, and, the reference mix he gave me had 5 tracks on, and I explained it to literally face to face in the studio. Couldn't have said it any clearer. This is A, this is B. They are polar opposite. I can't get B to sound like A. It's not going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And he didn't like the result. I think also he wasn't sure how to sing the songs and was expecting a miracle in the mix. And I ended up having to coach him. He didn't know what he wanted. He was getting multiple other people giving him opinions, and ultimately it didn't work. And I see him now on Instagram dotting around different studios. It's a different studio, it's a different mix engineer, it's a different mastering engineer every time. So possibly not my fault, but that person again just needs to say to someone, yeah, I went with him, but I didn't use him again for me to get a bad reputation. But I guess you can't help that. In terms of missing messages, easily done, especially when we're out with the Audient lads in LA and there's a few sherbets have been consumed. One way to get around that is an out-of-office reply, and you can do it on WhatsApp Business as well. Just set that fire and forget, and then you're letting people know you're away. You'll get back to them when you can and when you can think about it, and just try and be disciplined and not open the messages. But I know I do that. Wander off to the toilet after 4 pints and check my emails. Ooh, I'll read that, and then forget about it in the morning, with a hangover. We can try and avoid that. But yeah, communication is a big one. With that in mind, going on to the previous mixers topic, previous mixers can be beneficial and damaging. I think all someone needs to do is find an old mix, and we have this on YouTube. Certainly I've got old mixers on YouTube videos from years ago, and there are probably people watching those videos judging my mixing ability, which would be unfortunate given the learning curve we've been on, especially in the last 2 years, and to the level that we're at now is so far removed from that. So it'd be a shame to be written off by that. Does that bother you?
Yeah, and it's something that I'm always watching out for. So that's why I'm always tinkering with my portfolio. So my portfolio changes all the time, and when I get a mix that might be in a similar genre, but I feel like it's a better mix, I'll A/B them, and I'll be like, right, okay, that's the better mix. That's showing more of what I can offer. So I always believe that to kind of help your career, you should always be, keeping an eye on your portfolio, because there's no point having a portfolio that's like 3 years old. You might have changed your monitoring, you might have changed your chain, and you might actually have a different sim to what you did before. And again, you might have been working in a genre that's kind of outdated now, and everybody thinks that's like the only genre that you work in. There's lots and lots of things that you've got to think about, because I think that when it comes down to psychology, we talk about it quite a lot, about why people use social media. why it's important to constantly be showing that you're working all the time. Because, as you said there, somebody could go on to some of our older YouTube videos where we've like done mixes for certain, so I used to do it when I used to do like plugin tests and blah, 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 blah. I would never want a client to hear those mixes now. So yeah, you've got to be quite careful. And I have unlisted some videos because I'm like, that's going to maybe not look good on me. And I suppose that kind of brings another thing into clients, and subconsciously kind of ruining your career. A big part of that is social media. I think when you start thinking as a business, you then start, recognizing the things that may put people off you. So for me, I'm a very polarizing character. Everybody knows that. But I've learned that with the business, your people skills are the most important thing. And the last thing you want to do is be known for being a polarizing character. Okay, it's great that people see me as a very honest guy and, I say it how I see it. But, the last thing that people want is to go online, type your name, and they're like, oh my God, people love him, but people hate him. Wow, that's some dodgy shit people have said about you online. So I think sometimes it's not sometimes actually, I'd say in terms of business, social media, be careful about what you say. Politics, don't even bother. Steer away from politics. Be careful what you say about religion. Just be careful about what you say. Your job as an audio engineer, you're an impartial part of the process. See it that way. You can have your own views and your own opinions and be your own person, but from a business perspective, I've learned that it is better to separate that. And you'll notice that in my YouTube channel, it's changed a lot. Like the Paul Third from 2 years ago is very,
your solution
very
is to stop posting videos.
Yeah, basically, yeah, because I can't help myself. My own worst enemy.
It's a solution, but no, your whole demeanor. I mean, our whole demeanor on the podcast has changed. We were a bit gung ho.
Yeah.
Let's be cocky. Let's be outspoken. Yep. Underproduced like a pro who, we nearly got them sued at one point, apparently, allegedly. I can't confirm or deny that. And we had to kind of change, and I think you particularly had to learn how to play the game a little bit and not ruffle feathers if you want to be liked and make positive connections. I mean, social media is going to be a big theme in this episode, clearly, because it's multifaceted, but it's so exposing. We've touched on YouTube how previous mixes in old videos might damage our reputation. Now, if someone finds us today and they think, oh, well, that mix Ed Thorne did in 2020 sucks. Well, it probably did, but compared to now, it'd be a shame. It'd be a real shame. And this upsets me, this hurts me, to think that somebody might write me off based on something I did 5 years ago. But, they're either going to go away and find the website. Most people aren't going to bother. That's the problem, which did give me an idea, Paul. You said keeping your portfolio up to date. I totally agree with that. I do that as well. And one way you could help with your perception or other people's perception of you is if you have a mailing list. I've got about nearly 1,000 people on my mailing list.
Oh, okay.
Through my website. From when I used to offer like YouTube additional content and you'd have to subscribe and I'd get their email address and they'd get the content. There's an expensive way of doing it. I think it cost £9 a month and I did that for about 2 years through Squarespace, who charge you for absolutely everything. One idea from that is to send out reminders to all those people. Just put it in an email, find something to email out about. One thing I've got to email out about is my decision to change my pricing structure, to simplify it from the, multiple different tiers that I had that was undervaluing myself. And then the price that I've decided upon, which I think filters out the clients I don't want to work with, but is affordable and helpful to most people. That's a good excuse to email out to people. And in an email like that, for example, you could say, check out my portfolio. I update it regularly. There's always new stuff, new mixers, new masters going on there. And this work is indicative of my current level, which I think is excellent. You could phrase it like that, maybe. Have you got any ideas for something similar? Reaching out to clients, past, previous, current? Nicholas talks about this. He's like, at the end of every month, message every client you've worked with that month. Just say, hey, thanks for messaging, thanks for the work, etc. It's been a pleasure to work with you. Even on social medias, hey, we did this song together. When are you releasing it? Tag me, I'll share it. There's a lot of ways you can do it, but it can get quite labor intensive. without using AI, which I just inherently disagree with using for this kind of stuff.
I think for me, the most important thing that I'm finding is to make the clients that you've got right now super, super, super happy, because if you utilize them, then they will do the hard work for you. So again, for somebody like me, who's, working locally, I need to make the most of every client I've got in here. And, and that it's starting to get, quite busy now, where I'm working with some people and they're telling other people and then they're wanting to work with me now, and it's working that way. It's just like a very slow funnel, and it's just slowly reaching to other people. So I think, you can get in contact, but again, I'm always very careful about spamming people. And I think as soon as you start spamming somebody, then what happens is that for me, the relationship starts to dwindle a little bit, because
I'm talking
you
like
can kind of tell.
Maximum an email a month, maximum every 2 months.
I don't know. I'm just a little bit averse to it, because I'm just all about really trying to get just real relationships for me. I get it. Like, people will be like, Paul, you're overthinking it. But, the relationships that I have with people is something where genuinely I don't want to send an email. I'll send you a WhatsApp. You know what I mean? That's the way I am with my clients, where I've got all my clients' numbers. Like, I wouldn't send an email out. What I would do is I'd message them and go, hey, how you doing? Like, how you getting on? Yeah, like blah, blah, blah. That's the way I would do it. Instead of like sending like a kind of a generic fucking email where they kind of know everybody else is getting it. To me, a big part of not kind of, screwing up your career is like ensuring that your clients always feel like they're your clients. You know what I mean? And it's like they're not like everybody else.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. I think there's a fine balance between
it's balance,
approaches, but both can work for you.
Yeah.
If you feel it's right and you tread that line carefully, yeah. DistroKid sponsor the Working Audio Tools podcast, and you can get 30% off your first year's subscription using the VIP link in the YouTube video description and podcast show notes. DistroKid makes distribution of your music easy with unlimited uploads, and you get to keep 100% of your royalties and earnings. Join over 1 million artists who rely on DistroKid to get their music into Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube Music, TikTok, Tidal, Instagram, and all other streaming platforms now and in the future. The new DistroKid app is available on iOS. Go and download it from the App Store now. From here, you can upload new releases. You can see your DistroKid earnings and withdraw these earnings. You can view and share your hyperfollow links. You can check your streaming statistics from Spotify and Apple, and even add and edit lyrics and song titles. So keep track of your releases on the move with the new DistroKid app, available on iOS. Download it from the App Store now.
Another thing I was thinking about was, again, if you think about social media, and again, we have touched upon it, and it is a very touchy subject, but perception is really, really important. And we're not saying, put yourself in front of an SSL console like I've seen so many people do online, but it's like they're in college or uni. I see a lot of people that do it in college, where again, if they've got a console or whatever gear, they've got a photo of them sitting behind the desk with all the gear, when really it's not their own kind of studio. And even when your own studio, I think it's very important to be careful what you share on social media. So, I remember when I first started on the whole Instagram thing and I was building the studio, a few people were getting in touch with me saying, Paul, don't post that. I remember I had the little Galaxy speakers that I got from DJ Nelson when I was in LA. And I had them up because I was like, yeah, but I'm using headphones. So who gives a shit? He's like, Paul, I can't remember who it was. They were like, Paul, just think about what somebody thinks when they look at you on Instagram. They look at the studio and they see these tiny little fucking speakers. I know it doesn't matter because in your head you're mixing on these really expensive headphones, but perception matters. And you look at now, like 2.5 years on or whatever, I've now got $5,000 fucking Kali SM8s. True, nobody knows what they are, but they're still quite big speakers, and you know what I mean. And it's from a perceptual point of view. When people are now going on my Instagram now, it's the posts are more about working. If I'm using an expensive mic, I'll tell people it's an expensive mic. I'll tag I'll tag Austrian Audio if it's the OC818. If it's the SM8s, I'll tell people it's the SM8s.
You're doing Instagram very well now.
Yeah, but like I'm like genuinely just doing it like that. I could really, really, really do better, but
we could all do more, but it's so time consuming. But let me just inform the audience about the good news. Is you still have the Galaxy speakers?
I do. Yeah, they're genuinely.
As keyboard speakers,
my wife uses them.
Right?
Yeah, my wife uses them generally, like they're like her main speakers. But I'm always, I think perception is something that you genuinely do need to think about, because if people like look at your room and they see you in a bedroom and they see it as untreated, and the last thing you want to do is a client looks at you and completely writes you off. And you know what? I'm really bad for it. Like me and Ed are little bitches sometimes where we'll see a studio, we'll be untreated, and it'll be a pair of fucking HS8s, and it's like they're not even told in right, they're not even
and we'll share them with each other and look at this muppet. But there is a perception out there about that. There is a judgment about that stuff, and it is difficult. I mean, perception again covers so much, because that is so intertwined with social media. You mentioned politics and religion. That's a good one for sure. Stay neutral. I royally fucked up this year in February earlier on, and I was very publicly called out by another YouTuber, which I did not like. I thought that person was a friend and they should have reached out to me in person, but they didn't. But I fucked up because I was drunk and posted something I shouldn't have done because it was polarizing. And I learned, I didn't even need to learn the lesson. I'd learned it anyway, whatever. Politics and religion, stuff like that is one thing. Your studio is another. And that is something I've been concerned about, downsizing, moving into my, it's a bedroom studio now. It's a spare bedroom studio. There's loads of benefits for it. It sounds better. It's economically better. It's more convenient. There's loads of practical solutions. But the other studio with the big desk and looked like a spaceship with all the analog gear in front of you and 3 sets of speakers, it looked very professional, and it had good treatment in the background and stuff like that. I wonder if people have made a perception or a judgment about me and moving into this studio. I'm pretty sure a certain distributor who was considering working with me and someone else on some videos hasn't reached out to me, but is doing videos with this other person. And I wonder if that's partly to do with the fact that I've downsized the studio and it's not as impressive. Or maybe it's just a relationship thing. I don't know. Maybe I'm overthinking. But there could be many people thinking many different things for many different reasons, and the problem is you just don't know, so you really do have to put your best foot forward, which brings me to another big one. Being a jack of all trades. Now, the reality is we have to be in this industry. The reality is some of us have a history before we got into this industry. I've played drums, I've done live sound. I still do both of those, because why not? I enjoy them, and why not make money from skills that I've already acquired? But if people go on Instagram, maybe they're thinking, oh, he does live sound and he plays drums. When does he mix? Does he only does YouTube? Like, when does he mix? We have judged other people in the industry who post incessantly on social media. We're questioning, when are you mixing? Because we know how long posting videos and making social media content takes. We know how time consuming it is. So when are you mixing? And other people must be having that, maybe questioning them, maybe questioning us on that. Where do you feel on that? Being listed as a jack of all trades and a master of none, when really I'm actually just a master of all three.
It's difficult, and again, it all comes down to perception. But that's where, again, Mark from Present Day Production, I remember he said to me ages ago, probably last year, a big advice from him was, Paul, try and niche down. Niching down is a good thing for a lot of people. Again, he wasn't saying, just do jazz, just be a mix engineer, mix jazz and Atmos, not niche down that hard. But, there is, you could be a jack of all trades, but, I wouldn't, for example, right, a good thing would be if I was to then, try and challenge somebody like MSM, right, like a man that understands grime better than anybody, or like Emre, who does a lot of, the Turkish rap stuff. Like, I that's not like my forte. You know what I mean? That's something that I would need to study and learn. Now, I could take a client on and I could be like, yeah, I could do that, and I could do that, and I could do grime, and I could do hip hop, and I could do dance, and I could do EDM, and yeah, I could get that to -4 LUFS. Yeah, I could do it because I'm a jack of all trades, but it doesn't mean that I'm going to do it to the standard that they expect. And I think that's what a big important thing to remember is that you should always lean. What's the saying? You should always go with your best foot forward. So if you specialize in rock and pop and you mix a certain way, those are the things that you want to maybe lean more into, because those are the clients that you want to attract. If you go out and say, I can master anything and I could do this and I could do that, and you just give me that, and yeah, I'm a jack of all trades, but a master of none, then what's going to happen is over time, you're going to have more people saying that you're not that good, because they're like, yeah, he did hip hop and he wasn't really that good. Did EDM, but he wasn't really that good. He did this and he did that and he wasn't really that good. But then you've got one person or maybe a group of people saying, yeah, you nailed it in this genre. But then you've got all these other people kind of clouding their judgment. It's so difficult because you've got to get the work, you've got to get the experience, so you've got to try and mix all these things. So, yeah, I mean, how do you fix that? Like, what do? You still need to get the experience, but you don't want to put yourself in a position where you're creating so much of a high expectation that you're letting people down, which in turn is then giving yourself a bad reputation.
Yeah, it's difficult. I think you've got to be persistent, and you're right. We are trying to gain experience in all genres as much as we can, and you can't be an expert in all of them. It's like I've used this analogy before about playing an instrument. Guys who excel at jazz can't play AC/DC for shit. Technically, they can play a doom-gad, but they can't play it like that because the mentality's so different. Just as the other way around, Phil Rudd, bless him, I doubt he can, he's not going to be pulling Buddy Rich chops out. Yeah. So, but you can try, and certainly when you're studying, you should be absorbing everything you can. And if you're trying to get clients, like you've found, you've got an ear for EDM. You've had some EDM clients in, and apparently you're quite good at it, well. And you get R1 really approvals, and that's great. I don't know what the answer is other than be persistent and persistently develop your portfolio. So every time somebody comes out the woodwork, I had it a couple of weeks ago. Someone came out, have you got any kind of house dance tracks? And I was like, no. And he's like, oh, right. I sent him to a couple of tracks that was dancey. And I said, look, these are kind of dancey. They're not necessarily house specific, but in my opinion, a mix is either good or it's bad. And he seemed a bit confused by that and hasn't got back to me. So I don't know if he's thinking about it or if that's a firm no, or if that's put him off. I don't know. Maybe I need to go and find some house tracks and get that in the portfolio. In fact, that's exactly what I need to do. So that next time someone does come out and say, can you do house? Yeah, there you go. There's a mix. Maybe we need to go through every genre and get examples of it, unless we definitely want to avoid it. Like, we've both said metal music is a bit too niche for what we're into.
I think at the end of the day, it's got to just come down to not overselling yourself and being honest. And the more honest and transparent that you are, those are the things that aren't going to fuck up your career. If you oversell and underperform, that's what's going to fuck up your career. So I think I think what you did was the right thing. Somebody came in and you were like, shit, I don't have a house track. So yeah, you might lose out on that client today, but what it doesn't stop you is then mixing 2 or 3 house tracks, going back to them, when you've done a couple of house tracks, and say, yo, you got in touch about, doing a house track. I've mixed a few house stuff. If it's for you, maybe contact me in the future and we can work together. I mean, that's to me it's a long game. I think what many people do is many people try and kind of jump the queue, and it's like, but I can get the clients in now, and it's like, I could be a superstar. Jason Joshua talked a lot about it in Abbey Road when he was saying, I just fucking winged it a lot of the time. I just made it was better than I was. But again, he had Dave Pensado, and he was on Larrabee. Manny Markin was down fucking the lanes. You know what I mean? So he was in a good place, and the stuff was already well produced and stuff. But yeah, just because it worked for him, I wouldn't really advise it. Today to be like, I could do hip hop, I could do grime. Yeah, I'm better than MSM. I'm better than Tura Medina. I'm better than Prizzy. Yeah,
there's an element of fake it till you make it, but the line there has to be drawn at telling people you're better than established engineers. A, because that's disrespectful. Correct. B, because it's probably 100%. A blatant lie, and it just comes across as cocky and arrogant. So, but I get that was just an example. That wasn't actually what you think. But I think what you've done there quite well is actually pull together quite a few elements we've discussed in the podcast. This is actually an opportunity to A, go away, develop a new style of music and grow as a mix engineer. Mm-hmm. B, communicate with that client, even if it doesn't lead to anything, as exactly as you've said, hey, I've been doing some work on some EDM stuff and some house stuff. Let me know what you think. He might think, yeah, my God, actually, this guy's nailing it better than the other guy I'm using. I'm going to use Ed or Paul. So yeah, that's a good solution there. And you've expanded your portfolio, and maybe there's something in those mixes that you can get in short form or long form video content for social media to show people that you're working. Maybe, the public don't need to know it's not paid. You can work, you can put out stuff on your portfolio that, you're doing for free and showing people what your thought process is, and they'll like it or they won't, or it'll just, be a fart in the wind and just disappear in no time, and people will scroll past it without even pressing the audio button. One more thing on social media though, and this nearly screwed me. Requested messages folder on Instagram, for some reason, unless I go looking in my requested messages and refresh them, I don't get message requests on my phone.
Yeah.
It's probably a setting I need to change. So I check it on my computer and then it comes up. But I have had a client in there and I didn't get back to him for 10 days because I didn't see the fucking message. Thankfully, he's still kind of interested, but I nearly lost someone for that silly technical reason. I'm sure there's more perils out there. Let us know in the comments if you've had any other frustratingly annoying things that have stopped you from getting a client or getting a gig. Hey there, Ed here. You may recognise my voice from doing all the other DistroKid advert segments. This time I didn't want to just do a typical advert talking about stuff to do with DistroKid. I actually wanted to give you my feedback about the service because I genuinely do use DistroKid for uploading my music. And I know Paul does, and it turns out Dan Worrell does as well. I've used DistroKid since 2019. As you can see on the screen, I have 6 releases so far. It is genuinely super easy to use. The tracks get into Spotify within 24 hours, which is remarkable. Apple Music takes a little bit longer. I'd suggest giving that 10 to 14 days. The hyperfollow links are really useful for advanced promotion of your tracks, and the promo cards are really great visual aids for social media promotion. Ooh, I particularly like that one. DistroKid collect all the royalties from your streaming services, and here you can find an itemized breakdown of where all your income has come from. There's also a DistroKid referral where you can save your friends $10 per sign-up by creating your own VIP referral link.
I think the most important word that you brought up earlier is arrogance. Arrogance is something that you've got to keep in check. Okay, there are a lot of people out there that are very, very arrogant, but are also very, very talented and very, very experienced. There's a lot of people that show a ton of arrogance but don't have the skill set and the experience to back it up. Those are the people that will get found out very quickly. There is a part of arrogance that does come into the audio industry. I know quite a lot of engineers that have come across as very arrogant, but they've got, most of them, have the skill set to back it up. The people that are arrogant and can make out they could do this, that, and that will get found out eventually. And what you need to learn right now is that you will get found out. You will get found out. The fake it till you make it thing is something that you can only ride that crest, that wave, so long. You're going to get found out. And see, when you get found out, that could be a fucking nosedive. And depending on, it could be a label. I mean, you could build up faking it till you make it. You get a label, you get an A&R, you get the wrong person, you nosedive, they find you out, then all of a sudden your name is like blacklisted across the game. It's just not a risk that's worth taking.
Yeah, I agree. I think that was a good summary. I think we've covered a lot there. It's a balance though, isn't it, between, you've got arrogance on one side, being unconfident on the other side, somewhere trying to be humble, and somewhere also selling yourself.
That's so difficult, man. It's such a balance. Yeah.
As we learned in LA, I put a video on Instagram one day at Warren's studio, just been like, the main thing I've learned here is the difference between British people and American people is British people are so self-deprecating. We're so crap at selling ourselves because we have this fear of coming across as arrogant and cocky because that's frowned upon over here. That's put down as well. Whereas though the Americans are so good at selling themselves, it's not a case of telling people how good they are, but there's an element of that because you have to communicate that. You have to, there are ways you can display confidence. You've got to be able to come across as a relatable person, but come across as confident in your ability. And I think for me as a musician, that always came across from experience and practice. You know, even now that I don't play drums every day, I know I can go and do a gig and absolutely fucking smash it because I just have so much confidence in 20 years, well, nearly 30 years of playing, 20 years of doing it professionally. And the same, I'll get to that point with mixing. I'm getting there. It's like someone throws a mix at me, cool. You have those moments of imposter syndrome, thinking, oh my God, you're only as good as your last mix, and my last mix was crap because the production was crap, and I'd never put that in my portfolio. And it might be with the portfolio, you only update it 1 track a month because you're only getting 1 track a month that sounds really good that you can really show off with. So it is a balance. Please leave your comments and answers and solutions and ideas and thoughts about this in the description, and we'll get in the comments. And we'll get back to you. Any final words?
Yeah, look, there's one thing I'll end with. What's the solution to this, Paul? Keep on working, right? Yeah. Just keep on working, right? If you have a bad project, just believe that your next one will be good, right? As long as you keep working and you're constantly working, you could have a few bad projects, but you'll have a few good ones as well. And as long as people listen to the podcast, people listen to the guests that we have on, what do they say all the time? Just keep on working. Show people that you're constantly working. So whilst they might listen to one mix and go, yeah, that didn't sound good. Listen to a mix on Wednesday and it sounded shit. Somebody else can go, but did you see the mix that got released on Friday? 2 days later, sounds fucking awesome. You know what I mean? The more you keep working, the more chances that you give yourself. So just keep working. Keep at it. I know it's a slog, but just keep working, keep mixing. And yeah, share the journey and keep on at it. So, yep, that's a bit of positivity to end this episode with. So, yes, as Ed said, if you've got anything you'd like to share them below. But we'll leave it at that. My name's Paul Third. That's Ed Thorne, and we'll see you again next week on the Working Audio Tools podcast.